So today I wanted to come and talk to you a little bit about spiritual psychosis, okay? I wanted to kind of just briefly touch on the science of it and explore a broader topic, which is kind of a debunking of the idea of what it actually means. When you start getting into the science of existence, you come to find that all is light and frequency and sound, and all of that can be measured with numerical values. And all of that also translates into sacred geometry, which are shapes, which is the nature of existence. We are all just simply a product of sound, vibration, cymatics, and sacred geometry. So with cymatics, what you have is the salt resonating with different frequencies, and it creates these different geometric patterns. This is what you call the difference between nodal and antinodal lines in science. And basically that means that the resonance or the sound that is being played actually has a shape. And basically this is a microcosm of a much larger process that is actually what life is. Think about the Bible, God saying, let there be light, and let the firmament be, and all this other stuff. You're talking about the voice of God, or the sound or resonance or the source creating these different sound resonances that create the nodal and antinodal lines. And pretty much as the Bible speaks about us being the salt of the earth, it's just like the salt on the plate. Basically, we are a part of this matter that take the path of least resistance. The voice of God, or the sound, or the frequency, or the source that holds everything together, creates the cymatics, or the shapes, or the sacred geometry that is us. Basically, our lines, everything that is in existence is a part of this resonance, and we are pretty much being molded by this voice, or this sound, or this resonance that is the source, that is God, right? But on a smaller level, when you're doing these cymatic experiments and they're putting the plate in the salt, that's pretty much what existence is. It's just on a much larger scale. So in 2021, when I started to experience what they call spiritual psychosis, I noticed that certain things were happening around me, and I noticed that there was repetitive numbers. And it wasn't just me looking for these particular things. A lot of people say, oh, you just have, this hyper reaction when you're, doing the puff daddy, basically, and your senses are heightened. But what I would like to point out is the fact that, yes, you do see repeated numbers, but there's also people, being a part of that experience as well, and the randomness of things that are placed around you. It's like, well, I am not making this happen, and I'm not reading into it. I just saw something on TV that correlated with what you just came in the room and said to me out of your own mouth. So is it me that's overreacting in this instance and having a psychosis moment, or is this just a part of the new resonance that has been created because I have experimented in brain altering activities? Now, most people, when they have this start to happen to them, they start to see repeat numbers, they start to get all of these synchronicities that happen around them, and it can be a little jarring because you're not used to that on a regular basis. You're having all these things happen to and around you, and you're wondering why it's happening, and it's not a normal occurrence because you've been opened up to the resonance, basically. And at first I didn't understand this, so when I first started going through this, I was wigging out, you know what I'm saying? I really didn't understand what was going on with me. But the more that I learned about how life in and of itself is shaped, how everything is frequency and light, how all frequency can be measured numerically, and how numbers are actually sentient beings on a binary scale. When you put them in a binary code, the small numbers turn into larger light entities. Everything that is frequency is living and breathing, including numbers and geometry. So pretty much when you begin to experience this phenomenon, what I've come to find and realize over time after coursing through this process is that it's not that these things you're looking for these particular things. It is that you are now on a different brain wave or different frequency within your brain's chemistry has completely changed, and now you are tapped into the actual resonance that is frequency, that is God, that is all of the sentience that is surrounding you. So in essence, it's not happening necessarily to you, or this is not something that you're reading into. You're actually now drawing in all of these different frequencies into you that are sentient beings. You're now tapped into the resonance frequency. That is why you experience this psychosis. It's because now that you are a part of the resonance that is existence, you are now bringing the numbers to you, what I like to call the quantum field. Now you have access to all of these energies or entities, and you start to see repeat numbers. They start to pop up everywhere because they are sentient energies, and they exist on a quantum level and can be interpreted in a larger binary code, which angles themselves are angels, etc. So that's why people are calling them angel numbers. That's pretty much all it is. So a large part of what I do is interpret numerical systems that is within the matrix. Just like in the movie The Matrix, when you saw all those numbers running up and down the screen, that's pretty much what was being conveyed. All things are numbers, all things are patterns, all things are binary code. If you think about it in the context that all is frequency and light, and I like the fact that scientists like to study the material and they only give credence to the material when they're studying actually the immaterial. There is nothing that is actually material. All things are frequency and light. So how can you just be so stuck on one part of that narrative and not look at the immaterial and give credence to it? When you start tapping into these different resonant frequencies, you are tapping into the all. And a part of my experience has been understanding how this works. And now I'm at a level where I bring these things to myself. I know how to tap in, and if I need answers universe or whatever it is that I need out of this particular matrix. I can manifest that because I understand now that these numbers, everything, geometry, everything is sentient, and it's a huge part of what I do in my decoding of reality, because this is the language that is used in higher spaces to communicate. So ultimately, all things are frequency, all things are sound, all things are sacred geometry. And when you talk about telepathy, you talk about being able to communicate thought patterns, all of that has a shape, all of that can be measured numerically. Even when you're talking about manifestation, it's the exact same thing. You are pretty much bending the reality with numbers and thoughts and sacred geometry. Everything that you speak, everything that comes out of your mouth is a resonance. And yes, everything that is sung in a song and music, all of that, the things that you speak over your life, the words that you use create the reality in which you live. It is extremely important when we talk about the music industry and we talk about all of these different things that are being used to shape the environment and the way that we see life. Everything that we use that has a voice, everything that is implanted within your mind, because remember, you are the observer. So whatever is put into your mind space takes shape into the real world and the world around you. And whatever you speak out of your mouth, which is why this language that we speak is so, it's a very wonky language, and it has double entendres, and you can do anagrams, and all of the numbers and letters are sigils, which is why I look at them that way, because they are angles of light. It's the same as any grimoire that you look at in books of like Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon. It's the exact same type of process when you're looking at letters and numbers. And when those things are being seen by you, heard by you, spoken by you, you are creating the shape of the reality in which you live. And we are the ultimate manifestors of that as we're taking in programming, and that's why it's called programming. As you're tuning into different channels, you are the one that is creating the reality because you are the observer, okay? This is a fundamental principle in quantum physics. So when you talk about the source being God itself, or God, you're talking about resonance, and you're talking about frequency, and you're talking about the I am, which is the sound that creates all of existence. So numbers and patterns are extremely important, which is a big part of why I do what I do. I personally took the journey towards Christ consciousness, and I received that back in 2023, and I have been working on it from 2021 all the way up until 2023, which I'll make a separate video talking about that process and just give you a quick brief oversight as to how to accomplish it if that's something that you're seeking. However, a big part of me receiving this Christ consciousness is becoming one with the all, or the resonance, which is why you see me doing all of these decodes that center around numerical values, sacred geometry, and decoding and deconstructing the reality that has been created for us to exist in. When you are tapping into these different brain frequencies or brain altering substances, you are tapping into the resonance, and you are actually drawing these different light entities or beings to your auric field, basically, or within your ether. And you think that these are things that are happening to you, but in actuality, once you tap in, you are actually bringing these things to you. That's why it appears like, oh my God, it's not random. And some people freak out because they are not used to being in contact with these energies on a regular basis. But I've been in it for so long that these things happen to me on a consistent basis so much that it's to the point where I cannot even be bothered. So as a result of my journey, my process has been understanding the numerical coding of the matrix, basically, and how that shaped through popular television, movies, music, news stories, all of these different world events, and how that is numerically coded to shape or alter the source code through sorcery that we see in existence. And that's pretty much the gist of what I do on this page. So I just wanted to jump on here briefly and just talk about that, and I hope this message resonates with you. And per usual, peace, love, and light.